Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the live stream. I hope you're all very well tonight. I hope everyone is safe and well. So I just want to say a big welcome to everyone who's on the stream tonight. But first of all, we have Killer. Killer made it first this time. Dude is normally first, but Killer made it first this time. So thanks again for moderating on the stream, Killer. We have Wee Scott's Dog. Great to see you, Wee Scott's Dog. I hope you're well. Conservator, great to see you. Dano, great to have you on. Zoe Castles, great to see you once again. Kevin, great to have you on. Kenny, great to see you. My American friend. Christian, great to see you on. Hope you're well. David, great to see you. Red and SC, great to see you. Graham, great to have you on. Tom, great to have you on. Good evening. Tuning in from the old flat on an iPad. I love your new flat. Joan, great to see you. English Viking, great to have you on once again. Akismad, great to see you. Hope you're well. Morag, great to have you on. Sheila, great to see you. Silverblade, great to have you on once again. I loved your comments last time. M. Olsen, great to see you. Sheila, great to have you on. Heike Lamret, I know I'm always mispronouncing your name, I'm sorry. Great to have you on. Kieran, great to see you. We also have Mary Lena, great to have you on once again. We have Ministerian, great to have you on, Ministerian. Hope you're well. Giorgio, great to see you. Who else have we got? Aaron, great to have you on, Aaron. Tiny Demolition Lover, great to see you. Hope you're well. Magister, great to see you once again. Then we have, who else? Catherine, great to see you. FSM 1965. You're giving away your age there. Hope you're well. QA Library, great to see you. Hi Max, get off my land, bloody Southerners. I saw you posted a link, and but I haven't seen the video yet, so I must check it out later. Let me see. Superfluous Hen, great to see you. Verti, great to have you on once again. Oberon's Paradox, great to have you on. I want to say a big welcome to Oberon's Paradox because Oberon is our latest Patreon. So great to have you on, and I hope you're enjoying Discord. Let's see, we also have Aaron, great to have you on, Aaron. Timu, great to see you. John O'Sullivan, great to have you on, John. Let's see, we also have Connor, great to see you, Connor. CJM, great to have you on, CJM. I hope you're enjoying Patreon as well. Discord as well. We have Tiger and Herbie, great to see you both. Cameron, Igor, great to see you. Art of Code, great to see you. Dr. Johan, great to have you on once again. I hope you're well tonight and focus on the road. Archangel and Glasgow Case, great to have both of you on moderating. Hope you're both well. No DLC, great to see you. John Hart, great to have you on. Wow, we're up to 114. So I'm going to have to jump down to the end. Unfortunately, I can't say hello to everyone else who's coming on the stream, but I hope you're all very well tonight, and I hope you're all taking care of yourselves. Okay, Oberon has been a patron for a while, just was on the wrong tier. Okay, sorry about that. I just saw you appearing recently. Thank you very much, Connor, for that super chat. Who, me? Good evening. Global Tweed, great to see you. Okay, so I want to say, I had planned to talk about the Donald Trump situation and, of course, Joe Biden and the pandemic and many things. But something came up recently, which was quite interesting, is actually today it happened. I didn't actually get to see all of it, but it's about Brexit, our old friend Brexit. So just before we jump into this topic, I just want to say, if you'd like to hit me with a super chat, you can. Super chat is enabled once again. It was disabled for a while, but it's back. And if you'd like to become a Patreon, I do recommend it because you get instant access to Discord, and we have a lot of fun over in Discord. You can do live chats. You can set up your own live chats with people on Discord. You can do a live chat with me, sound chat or video chat as you prefer. Okay. So There's also the merch stores. I do recommend checking out the merch store. I'm going to upload some new stuff that's in the pipeline. T-shirts and mugs and things like that. Okay, so this is Michel Barnier responding to the slow progress of the negotiations on Brexit. So, and he's pointing to the possibility of no deal at the end of this. So he laments the time wasting. He says time wasting in UK makes post-Brexit deal unlikely. Now, I had always put a certain amount of confidence in Boris Johnson's government to actually have some type of deal, some type of bare bones deal that Boris Johnson could return to Parliament with, to the media with, to the British people with, and say, look, we have succeeded, we have a deal. I still think there's still a possibility of that. I'm not ruling it out completely, but Michel Barnier believes there isn't much chance at this stage of having a deal. And he should know better than I should. But I still believe that Boris cares about getting some type of deal. And I think he will be willing to bend at the last moment. They're hoping that the EU will bend at the last moment. The EU will give in and say, okay, we'll give you something. I think it's more likely that the UK will bend because Boris Johnson wants to protect his position. If Boris Johnson comes back with no deal, this is going to be extremely damaging for Boris Johnson and the Tories. So you have to remember that the Tories and Boris Johnson want to protect the Tories and Boris Johnson. They don't care about protecting the British people. They don't care about the NHS. They don't care about anything else. They care about protecting their position. Coming back with no deal, they can blame the EU. Well, the EU didn't give us what we want. The EU didn't give us what we want. But it's still you that came back with no deal. Day 52 says the EU will not bend. I don't believe they will bend. Does anyone watch A Different Bias? If not, I would recommend. Yes, I'm a big fan of Different Bias. Phil makes some very high quality videos and he knows a lot about British politics. The EU will give us a kick in the in the bollocks. I think the problem is that the Brexiteers believe the EU are willing to throw everything under the bus in order to get a trade deal. And they seem to forget, or I don't know whether they forget this or they generally pretend not to know this. They believe that the EU just want to do a trade deal, and they don't understand that the EU actually care more about integration, European integration. That's one of the reasons when I was talking about Scottish independence and Scotland becoming a member of the EU, the EU would jump at the idea because it creates a bigger bloc. Of course, there are costs, and some people in the comment section were talking about, oh, well, what about the debt? And what about the debt? That's not really an issue. Mark Wieseling is very good. Yes, he's a German YouTuber, and he talks about Brexit. He's very, very clever guy. But I think the position the Brexiteers don't understand is that they think that the EU just care about trade, and the EU don't care so much about trade. They care about having a united bloc. And as I was saying, they would welcome Scotland in because Scotland would be an enthusiastic member. Once again, the costs I think we can park it. That would be worked out later. But the EU want member states who are pro-EU. They would prefer, perhaps in a way, to jettison Poland or Hungary, but take on board a country like Scotland, even if it results in some sort of cost. Now, of course, we're not going to talk about that tonight, but that would be for another stream. Which I'd like to do with maybe someone from the SNP or another YouTuber who is more informed on Scottish independence than I am. Anyway, let's read a little bit more of what Michel Barnier has said. So Michel Barnier has accused the British government of wasting valuable time and warned that a post-Brexit deal between the EU and the UK looks unlikely. So it's not impossible, but it is unlikely. I think he's extremely frustrated because he believes that the UK, or he believed at the beginning perhaps, that the UK wanted a deal. And he believed that the UK and the EU should converge on a deal. But the problem is that Boris Johnson is always having one eye on the Brexiteers. Okay, what can I do? What can I say that will not upset the Brexiteers? David McGuinness, yes. So if you're always looking over your shoulder at what you can do or what you can't do, you're not going to be able to focus on having a deal that is a convergence with the EU. Ministerian says EU has been consistent. UK has only laid red lines and is becoming masters of U-turns. The UK seem to think that they are on an equal level to the EU. So when they talk about, the truck drivers coming in from this is an issue about the truck drivers traveling across the border into the UK, or going from the EU into the UK, and then being blocked to in their return trip, or all the problems related to documentation after a no deal, if there's no, what is it called? I don't remember the term, about how trucks can arrive in another country, deliver goods in three cases, in three places, and then they can return back to their own country. And the Brexiteers seem to think that they have won something here by saying, the EU need a deal with us so that their truck drivers can come into the UK, deliver their goods. But once again, I remember reading cabotage. Yes, thank you very much for that. So this idea of being able to arrive in a country and deliver goods in 3 different sites, I really don't think that's a big issue for the European Union. The European Union is looking at things at a higher level. It might be a problem for individual countries, but I think those individual countries are probably working on a way around the problem. For example, in Ireland, they're talking about putting on more ferry services between Ireland and France. So not to actually have to pass through the UK, but to bypass it completely. But we'll see. So back to Michel Barnier. With 2 months to go until the EU imposed deadline of October, the EU's chief negotiator said, "Frankly, I'm disappointed and worried," Barnier said, as he was a little surprised because Boris Johnson told EU leaders earlier this summer he wanted to outline a deal by July. Once again, the EU believe that the UK are sincere. We want a deal. Okay, let's sit down and have a deal. But the Brexiteers sit down and say, okay, we actually don't really want a deal. What we want is to cherry pick parts of EU legislation or EU rules, pick out the bits that we like, leave out the bits we don't like, and we want you to sign off on that. And the EU say, no, we can't do that for many reasons. One of them being, well, if we give you this type of deal, what's the benefit for member states? Why would member states remain part of the EU if someone on the outside can cherry pick the deals, cherry pick the rules that they want to follow and leave out the rules they don't want to follow? Let me just read some of your comments. No, cabotage would mean higher costs and more traffic jams. Luckily, Ireland started looking at routes from Rosslare to France and Spain back in 2016 and 2017. Thanks for that comment, Declan. Mr. Spoon, Rosslare is getting EU funding to bring it up to level 2 port. So I think this is what they have been talking about from the beginning. The UK brought out introduced this idea of no deal. Okay, if we don't get what we want, we're going to walk away without a deal. So what did the EU do? They said, okay, let's prepare for no deal. And then Boris Johnson and the Brexiteers were, what? How can you compare? How can you prepare for a no deal? You can't do that. we didn't expect you to prepare for no deal. We were using it as a bargaining chip. How dare you take away our bargaining chip, our threat? Lots of cookies says, hi Max, thank you for your continuous outrage at the bastards that are burying our nation through sheer corruption and cronyism. I thought I was energetic, but you keep fighting the good fight. Thank you very much for that. Lots of cookies, and you're very kind to send me that donation. I fight because I believe it's important. I fight this fight because I care about the people of Britain. I receive hundreds of comments about telling me to get lost. You're not from here. Go away. We don't want to hear you. We won, you lost, when they're talking about me as a Remainer. And I don't respond to all of them. It would be ridiculous because I think some of them are bots. But my response in general is I care about the British people. That's why I make these videos. That's why I care. That's why I'm passionate about this. I care about the British people. I have relatives. I have friends. I have friends on this channel who I care about. I will be okay in Italy. I'm living in Italy, for people who don't know. After Brexit, I won't be impacted by this directly. But you guys will. I have relatives, family members in England, in different parts of England in particular. And I'm worried that they're going to be negatively impacted by this. So it really grinds my gears when I hear people saying, get lost, we don't care about you, we won, you lost. And my response is, no, you lost. Unless you're Nigel Farage or Jacob Rees-Mogg, you have lost also. Spitfire Hunter is a bot. Okay, thanks for pointing that out. I realize I'm a little better off. You lose anything with Brexit, freedom of movement. No, actually, you're right. But you're Irish. It's not like you lose anything. You not lose anything. It's not like you lose anything. You lose freedom of movement. Yes, I actually, you're right. I don't lose on the same level as the people of the UK, but I would love to visit more often. If I want to visit the UK next year, I will need to fill out documentation, paperwork. Do I need a visa? I don't know. I don't know what the agreements will be. It's the same as going to the United States. If I ever wanted to live in the UK, how would that work? I have no idea. I'd probably go to Scotland because they're more likely to to remain part of the EU. I'm an ardent leaver, but I've always come to channels like this to listen to you. You have every right to your opinion. Thank you very much, David Williams. I have nothing against Brexiteers. I have a problem with Brexit, and I care about people, whether they're impacted, whether they agreed with Brexit or not. I care about people. I have said at the beginning of this year, I said, I hope Brexiteers will hold Boris Johnson to account, because Boris Johnson has made a lot of promises to all the people of Britain, all the people who voted for and against Brexit. And I hope he's held to account for the promises that he made. Michael Gove has said that the UK did not vote for a no-deal Brexit. Okay, so what Michael Gove was talking about was that in theory, he's correct, what Michael Gove actually said. Yes, people didn't vote for a no-deal Brexit. They voted for a Brexit. But also, who was ever talking about no-deal Brexit before 2016? Or even, I think, 2 years ago, no deal was brought into the vocabulary. It's really depressing that we're arriving at a state where there's going to be no deal. Maxi the Italian, he speaks on Brexit, yet unlike the guy Jeff, our Maxi ain't a tit. Very nice. Does anyone know what the fate of the British immigrants in Spain will be? Dwayne says, I think they would be protected, but I don't know what their situation will be after Brexit. There will be some protections, of course, for them, but I think it will depend on the Spanish government. The UK doesn't seem to care about immigrants. What they call them expats living in Spain. It's a very strange term, isn't it? Expat and immigrant. I think Jeremy Corbyn and David Cameron mentioned it. Michael Gove said that in an interview with the Guardian last year. Another thing Michael Gove said, I don't know, maybe Connor, if you're mentioning this, if you're referring to this actually. Michael Gove said that we don't have a no deal. We have a deal. And he's been a bit sly here by saying this, because a no deal means no agreement. But there are some agreements at the moment that the EU and UK have signed, or have agreed on. They haven't signed off on them, but they have been agreeing them. And when we're talking about no deal, we're talking about trade, not so much security or other other issues, for example, energy or policing, things like that. I prefer the term immigrants. Some people don't. Max has an Irish citizen carrying an Irish passport. We refer to the 1923 Common Travel Area between the UK and Ireland. Okay. But if I'm traveling from Italy, but I guess it depends on the passport, so it doesn't matter where I'm coming from. The passport is more important than I am. The passport can travel, but I can't. In 1914, Britain took in 100,000 Belgian refugees. Now can't cope with 5,000. 4,000 actually, John. Okay, I just want to go back to this article. So it says, with 2 months to go, until the EU imposed deadline of October, the EU's chief negotiator said, "Frankly, I'm disappointed and worried." Barney said, "I'm a little surprised because Boris Johnson told EU leaders earlier in September that he wanted to outline a deal by July. After 2 days of talks with the British, Bernie said, too often this week it felt as if we're going backwards and not forwards. At this stage, an agreement seems unlikely," he said. "I simply do not understand why we're wasting valuable time." Wasting valuable time because Boris Johnson and the Brexiteers are hoping that they can run down the clock. And they're hoping, in a way, their game of chicken with the EU will result in some sort of deal that Boris Johnson can return to Parliament and present. See, I have a deal. This is my thinking on it. It's not that they will actually have a comprehensive deal. There's no time for a comprehensive deal. And the Brexiteers are not interested in having a comprehensive deal. Now, surely Michel Barnier knows that. I think he does. But why he's not saying this is maybe for diplomatic reasons. Saying, look, we don't have time for a deal. We're working hard. We're wasting time. We need to be on the ball here. We need to have this done and dusted by October. So there's time for parliaments around Europe to pass the necessary legislation. But I think Boris doesn't understand that, or the Brexiteers don't understand that. They think that they can just hold out, throw a tantrum until the last minute, and then the EU will say, okay, here's your deal. But I don't see that working, because something very important, something bigger than Brexit has passed, and that's COVID. And you can see how the EU shifted gear when COVID arrived. And they said, look, we're not going to allow the European Union to collapse due to COVID. That's why they agreed this huge package to save many countries' economies. This was to protect the European Union. It was not so much to protect countries' economies. But they knew that if the economies of these countries collapsed, then this would be damaging for the European Union. I'm not saying it in a sense that they didn't care. It's that they understood that if they want to maintain European integration, they need to help out these countries. And we saw the different nations come together and agree on this. There was, of course, some disagreement during the negotiations on it, but at the end, people came together, they compromised, and they had their deal. If that had not gone through, I think the European Union would be in a weaker position and would be more likely to just give in to Boris Johnson, because they would see this as, we're in a weaker position, we need just to get rid of the UK, give them whatever they want, so they're out of our hair. But I think now that the European Union is in a stronger position, they're able to say to the Brits, I'm sorry, if you want, this is what's on the table. If you don't like, go away. We're not in a hurry. You are. Twee Lord said, thank you very much for that super chat. They're British, so they're expats. But you're Irish, so you're an immigrant. And so would I be. But hear me out, expats. Expats. Fantastic. So that's about people, whether you're an expat or whether you're an immigrant. So it depends on who's speaking. Let me just read some more of your comments. Apparently the UK has a Cummins plan, Gwen, sorry. Biden wants to resurrect TTIP. Great. I think the EU has been too diplomatic. I think they're diplomatic in public, but probably behind closed doors they're not diplomatic. And I think the UK's response is just to do nothing. They don't take the bait, they just do nothing. They're hoping to run down the clock. I think this is the mentality within Number 10, is just let's run down the clock and the EU will just give in. But I think it's a dangerous game to play, because if the UK doesn't get a deal, what happens next? You're going to see chaos. And the EU will say, look, we were willing to give you a deal. You didn't want it. You created your own red lines. We were willing to come to an agreement. We wanted to converge on agreement. You wanted to diverge on any type of agreement. They keep options open. An expat is nothing more than an immigrant with an upgrade. Sorry, could someone remind me why the UK is doing this? Dwayne Brown says. Dr. Johan Asa, did you get any news on Japanese cheese? It's exquisite. I've never tried Japanese cheese, unless you're talking about tofu, which is not really a cheese. It's a fermented soybean. Well, although milk is fermented milk. Cheese is fermented milk, isn't it? In a way, it is. Now I'm showing my ignorance regarding cuisine. I'm Irish, not Italian, okay? So I can be ignorant on cuisine. Max, yeah, waiting out their victims is what the British establishment have always done. But I keep saying, when the food crisis hits, boom, folk have no idea how bad it will be. So Boris is cooked. Roasted Boris. Cheese was an excuse. Yes, Ministry made a very interesting point, and yeah, I think you also brought it up on our Discord chat, that cheese was an excuse for not having a good deal. So the UK, when they tried to have a trade deal with Japan, wanted to have a good trade deal with Japan. Japan probably asked too much, and in order to make excuses for not being able to get a good deal, they threw in this idea, we asked for cheese, and they said, no, we're not going to give you a deal because of cheese. In a way of, and if that was the case, which I think you're giving the Brexiteers too much credit. I mean, the Brexiteers in government, I don't think they're sly enough to say, let's throw in something that we know will be popular with the public, but will cover our arses. Maybe you're right, but I think you're giving Boris Johnson's government a bit too much credit there. Okay, I just want to read a little bit more from this. Simply don't understand why they're wasting time. His opposite number, David Frost, struck a more hopeful note while acknowledging there was little progress. The UK's chief negotiator said, agreement is still possible and it's still our goal, but it is clear that it will not be easy to achieve. We have had useful discussions this week, but there has been little progress. Privately, the UK rebuffed Barnier's accusation of time wasting and blamed the EU for slowing down talks. So this is what we've been talking about all along. But if Boris Johnson doesn't get a deal, it will be the EU's fault. It won't be Boris Johnson's fault. It won't be David Frost's fault. It won't be the Brexiteers' fault. It won't be the Tory party's fault. It will be the EU's fault. I said this from the beginning, that when things go badly, the Tories blame someone else. When the lockdown wasn't working, they were blaming the public. Oh, people are not following the rules. We didn't give you clear rules, but you didn't follow them anyway. At no point did Boris Johnson or Matt Hancock ever say, we made a mistake. You can watch all the videos of all the press conferences that Boris Johnson and Matt Hancock gave over the last 3 or 4 months surrounding the pandemic. I blame Jeff. And in not in one scenario, one episode of any of these videos that were uploaded onto the interwebs, did Boris Johnson and Matt Hancock ever say, we made a mistake, or we didn't know what we were doing, or we were taken by, well, no, they said, I think they were taken by surprise in a way which was a lie, because they knew what was coming down the road. But they never said we made a mistake. It was always someone else's fault. And of course, they're going to do exactly the same with the EU. When trucks start to queue up in Dover, they're going to say it's the EU's fault. We wanted to have a deal, but the EU didn't want to have a deal with us. They were too intransigent. We wanted to have a good deal with the EU, but they didn't. They were not willing to go the extra mile. We were willing to go the extra mile. But I think at that stage, let's start a campaign. Jeff Taylor needs a hug. But I think at that stage, if there is a no deal, they'll blame the EU, but it will be pointless. It won't wash. We knew that they were going to blame the EU. They'll blame the EU, but that will last only so long. After, you have to take responsibility. But I think we're going to come back to this topic very soon, because it's not fully played out. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. I want to show you, so of course, Steve Bannon, Donald Trump's, I uploaded a video about Steve Bannon today. So this is Steve Bannon's shenanigans, which are quite interesting because he set up a website as part of his non-profit to rake in donations to build a wall. Now, let's just take a moment to absorb that information. I was going to say Boris Johnson again. I did say Boris Johnson. Donald Trump ran on a campaign back in 2016. We're going to build a wall. We're going to build a wall, and Mexico is going to pay for it. And it was so idiotic, but so many people bought into it. Bannon, the investor of Brexit. Yes, he was a very naughty boy. He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy. Ulster unions chucked under a bridge for Brexit. Exactly. I've talked about that a lot, how the Ulster unionists, the unionist community, and many people in Northern Ireland have been thrown under a bus. Whether you agree with Boris Johnson or not, he has thrown you under a bus. Anyway, so Steve Bannon set up this website to take in donations from Trump supporters to build a wall. So, which would be very weird, because imagine if somebody came to your house and say, vote for me because I'm going to build a wall, and the people on the other side of that wall are going to pay for it. You won't have to pay for it. And then 2 weeks later, the person comes around to your house again, or a friend of theirs comes around and says, can you give us some money because we need to build this wall? And people gave money. How stupid are these people? The real Steve Bannon. The real Steve Bannon is on the stream. I would imagine that you would be keeping a low profile at the minute, Steve. It was a great project. You were doing very well. The problem is that you're like the guy who goes around saying, I don't have any money, and then you go to his home and you see he has a new 60 or 70 inch TV, and you go, where did you get the money for that? So Steve, you've been a bad boy. So let's see some of this. I donated and I'm Mexican. We were to build a wall for a different reason. No wall has been built. Also, private people are not allowed to build border infrastructure without a government contract. Exactly. But, dude, you can't explain this sort of thing to Trump supporters. Trump supporters are not people who care much about detail. I'm an ardent leaver, but I listen to your channel. Differing views and opinion and debate add to richness of democracy. I agree with that, David. Thank you very much for that comment. We can disagree on Brexit, but we can still be friends, I hope. Twilord says, thank you very much for the super chat. Can't help but think while Brexit is dumb for everyone, Republic of Ireland, Malta and Croatia, ironically, from being UK colonies, understand negotiating from weakness. Is a very good point. Yes, they understand what it is to negotiate from a weaker position. The problem is that Boris Johnson and his government don't think they're in a weaker position. They either don't think it or they're lying about it. So, is Boris Johnson an idiot or is he a liar? Or maybe he's both. Stranger things happen in the US. TV priests. I know Fox News has a TV priest who's a huge Trump supporter. So let's see. This is a report from CNN about I'm not going to watch the whole. We're not going to watch the whole video, but it's an interesting snippet about what's happened to Steve Bannon.
Bannon today busted on a yacht off the coast of Connecticut, and in yet another note of delicious irony, those doing the arresting were law enforcement officials with the U.S.
The real Steve Bannon has given me a kind super chat. Has some extra cash available. Okay. I hope nobody has gone without paying their rent in order for you to give me that that super chat. Are you going to be able to clean that yacht of yours now that you're giving me money? You should keep that money, Steve, for a good lawyer. I recommend keeping that for a good lawyer. Oh, this is one of the best streams yet.
Postal Service. Bannon charged by federal prosecutors with conspiracy to commit wire fraud and money laundering. Bannon and 3 other men accused of orchestrating a scheme to defraud donors, taking more than $1 million donated to the group, quote, We Build the Wall. It's a group that was supposed to raise money to help build President Trump's border wall with private funds after repeatedly assuring the public that they would not take a, quote, penny in compensation. That was, prosecutors said today, a lie. The 4 men lined their own pockets. Bannon
I just want to stop this for a moment. And how is it possible that something like this actually happened? How is it possible that somebody set up a website who's connected with the government and raised finance? Like, he's not getting punished for that. He's getting punished for using the money and lying to the people. My problem is that he set up this bloody website, that he encouraged people to pay, to donate to him. That's the problem. That's the core problem here. What he's arrested for is nothing to do with that. He's been arrested because he's using the money illegally. Not the idea that he actually asked people for money in the first place, which should be the problem here. A good lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, yes. Max, do you have to ask a question? How stupid can a Trump supporter be? That is the most superfluous question I've ever heard. Yes, apologies for that. Imagine a world where the president's former advisor was arrested by postmen on a boat for committing fraud, and it wasn't even the biggest story of the week. Yes. Oh my God. We are... I think we're all inside a matrix, and someone is having a lot of fun.
Alone receiving hundreds of thousands of dollars for his own personal gain, allegedly. Perhaps not surprisingly, this group of grifters were praised by President Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr.
This is private enterprise at its finest, doing it better, faster.
This is private enterprise at its finest. He's a con man, and you call it finest enterprise. It's enterprise at its finest. A con man. It's like, I was just about to say, Silver Blade, if he was arrested for a con, they'd have to shut down the evangelical super churches. I agree 100%. This is basically like the super churches. Praise the Lord, send me $50 and I'll put it into a prayer for you. This is the type of thing, and people give them money. Now, I think, unfortunately, some people give these religious freaks money because they're desperate. They have a sick relative, and they're hoping, if I give $50 to this evangelical preacher, he can say a prayer on my behalf to God, and God can intervene and help my sick relative. I can understand that from one point of view. Desperate people will go to desperate measures. But who's desperate to build a wall when at the same time the president said someone else is going to pay for it? The same people who supported Donald Trump supported him because he said that Mexico was going to pay for the friggin' wall. And the same people turned around a few weeks later, a few months later, or years later, and said, yeah, I'm going to donate to the president to build the wall, even though he said that someone else would pay for it. It's like you go to the pub, and the barman says, that guy over there is offering drinks for everyone, and you go, oh, fantastic! So I don't have to pay. No, he's paying for the drinks. You order whatever you want. That guy over there at the bar, he's going to pay for all the drinks. So then you go and you order a drink, and they say, okay, that'll be £3.50, please. You're like, most people would be like, but the guy at the bar told me that the guy at the bar was going to pay for the drinks. That's what most reasonable people would be. You wouldn't have the barman after come back and say, give me £3.50, and you go, oh, here you are. What's wrong with these people? I really, I did Fool of the Week today, but the real fools are the people who handed over cash to build a frigging wall. It's not like we need to build a wall to save my sick relative. Send me £50 and touch your screen, and I'll heal you. Promise. Let me get access my credit card. Kenneth Copeland is a very creepy guy. But you didn't get it, Max. The phrase Mexico is going to pay for it was for the poor racists. The rich racists actually didn't care about the money aspect and donated. Very good point. But I actually think some poor people probably paid. I hear you're someone's toy now, Mr. Bannon. Oh, fantastic.
Faster, cheaper than anything else. And what you guys are doing is pretty amazing.
Oops. Let's jump the ad.
Build custom industrial machines.
It was pretty amazing, just not necessarily in the way Donald Trump Jr. meant. A spokesperson for the Trump Organization told the New York Times that Trump Jr. was also deceived by the group and had no involvement beyond that speech.
So you would think that Trump Jr. would know about this, but he was conned by them as well. It's like, yeah, the lead con man. It would be like if Nigel Farage's son, I don't know if he has a son or daughter, if Nigel Farage's son voted for Brexit because they believed what Nigel Farage was saying, even though they know, Nigel Farage has dinner with them and says, look, this is all a big pile of crap. And they voted for it anyway, or donated to it, to the Brexit party or something. I get that commercial too. Yeah, it's strange. Maybe we're on the same wavelength. Have you seen the two black super preachers dancing on the thousands of dollars of people's money in the church? My God, that's disgusting. You know what they could do with that money? Help the poor, help the homeless, but no. They're like, look at how much money I have. Now I can buy a Lamborghini because of all the donations you people gave to me. I should shut up.
Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf also visited the site where this group of alleged grifters...
But at least when you're giving me money, I'm going to rant. Okay? I'm not... there's no disappointment, I hope.
...was building some sort of wall, though it has been criticized. Bannon joins, of course, a long list of Trump campaign officials and associates who...
So remember that Donald Trump said that he was hiring the best people. Steve Bannon was one of the best. Paul Manafort was one of the best. No, the best. Michael Cohen, Rick Gates, Michael Flynn, Roger Stone, George Papadopoulos. I know I'm terrible with surnames. These are all the best people. And they've been charged or convicted.
Who have been charged or convicted of various crimes. President Trump earlier this afternoon calling the arrest a sad event, though even that weak expression of...
This is, I wonder what kind of car Max is driving. I'll give you a guess. It's Korean.
Sympathy seemed to be for Bannon, not specifically for the supporters of the Trump agenda who got ripped off. CNN's Caitlin Collins is in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, where President Trump is set to deliver that attack on Joe Biden. And Caitlin, the president, he's really going to go after Biden for ripping folks off? Kind of bad timing given the Bannon arrest, no?
It is hard to see how that does not loom in the background of this speech. And before this happened, the intention of the president coming here was to counter Joe Biden, to kind of steal his thunder on the day.
So Trump is like, Joe Biden is corrupt. Joe Biden is corrupt. Now ignore the corrupt people in my campaign. Joe Biden is corrupt. Joe Biden is corrupt. Deo Mattis. No, not a Deo Mattis, but you're getting close. Toyota is not Korean. Toyota is Japanese. Remember, guys, hit that like button. We're up to 237 viewers. This is one of the highest number of viewers we've ever had on this on a stream. So I want to see at least 237 likes. Remember, like it's like voting. Vote. What did they say? Vote early, vote often. Like early, like often. Don Jr. is not very clever in many ways. He isn't bright, and yet he's just gormless, and he's also a nasty little shite. Very good, Wheescott's dog. We have 4 religious channels in Australia, and everyone ends with a request for money or to buy magic merchandise, all revenue tax free. That makes me very angry, because they're selling someone a lie. And they don't even have to pay taxes on it. Even Rudy Giuliani is under investigation. The right answer would be, I'm Italian, I drive a scooter, not Kia. Kia, very good. It's a Kia. Not Hyundai, but Kia.
He's going to finally accept the Democratic nomination. But now Steve Bannon and this accusation that he cheated the president's own supporters and played a role in this out of money for one of the president's, most promised election promises from the campaign trail in 2016 is going to be hanging over this event.
I honestly don't think it's going to. I don't think it's going to cause Trump that much of a problem, because his supporters don't care. If his supporters were willing to give money to someone who was part of a campaign that told you a couple of years earlier, you don't have to give any money, it will be paid for by Mexico. Guys, thank you very much. It's great to have you on the stream. Greetings from Dubai. Thanks for those greetings. I hope you're very well. Don't like often, folks. No. Actually, no, you're right. If you like and unlike, no, that was a joke. Holy smoke, plenty bad preachers for the devil to stoke. Geez, what am I saying? Feed them in feet first. That's no joke. This is thirsty work making holy smoke. They will blame Bannon, not Trump. And Trump, well, let's see what Trump actually had to say in response to this.
This is for government, this isn't for private people. And it sounded to me like showboating, and I think I let my opinion be very strongly stated at the time. I didn't like it. It was showboating and maybe looking for funds, but you'll have to see what happens. I think it's a very sad thing for Mr. Bannon. I think it's surprising, but this was something, as you know, just by reading social media and by reading whatever it is, and by speaking to Mike and all of them, I didn't like that project. I thought that was a project that was being done for...
Then why didn't you say something about it before? Farage, thank you very much, Tweelers. Rum did it. Thank you very much for that super chat, or super like. That's a super like from Rum did it. Tweeler says Farage has 2 boys and 2 girls. His wife likes him. His wife likes him. Oh no, you can't see the screen. Let me refresh. Okay, sorry about that. Trump didn't appear on the screen for some reason. I know some people would prefer that, but Trump is saying that, yeah, this was nothing, I didn't agree with this, so I didn't like this type of project. Then why didn't you do something about it before? You're the friggin' president. You could have said, Steve Bannon, shut this thing down. I don't want anything. I don't want any of this money. This is dirty money. This is taking money from fools. I don't take money from fools. Oh, wait a minute. Let me just check the money coming in from Trump University. My God.
Showboating reasons. I don't know that he was in charge. I didn't know any of the other people either. But it's...
This is the typical response from Trump. Who? Steve Bannon? Steve who? Bannon. Is that like the guy from, who played the Hulk? Bannon? Steve Bannon. Steve... Is he a superhero? No, it's Steve Bannon. I know that name, but really, I've no connection with him at all. I've never met the guy. He was my campaign manager. No, he was just an intern. He wasn't the real campaign manager. I was the campaign manager. This is typical Trump. As soon as someone within his circle is caught, he's never heard of them, while 6 months earlier he's praising them.
It's sad. It's very sad.
Especially for it's President Bannon, it's Roger Stone, it's Michael Flynn, it's Rick Gates, Paul Manafort, Michael Cohen. What's it say about your judgment that these are the kind of people?
Well, I have no idea.
And the culture of lawlessness.
Yeah.
What does this say? You're hiring people who have been convicted or charged. What does that say about your judgment? Of course, Trump. What can Trump say to this? He can't say, "Well, I have terrible judgment," or "I made mistakes." That would imply terrible judgment. You can make a mistake once or twice, but if almost everyone you employ has problems, then it means that you're not very good at your job. You should be vetting these people. But Trump didn't vet these people. These people were presented to Trump. Some of them probably said, I can help you, or I can donate money to your campaign, or I'm a sycophant, and that's all he cared about. He didn't care what type of history they had. You have to remember that Donald Trump used to be in the construction industry in New York City, which is basically run by the U.S. the New York mafia. And you don't, when you work with the mafia, you don't care about what they do. You don't care about who has been, melted in a bathtub of acid, or who's supporting a flyover embedded in concrete, supporting a flyover. You don't care about what they've done. Trump doesn't hire swamp creatures. Steve knew nothing of $1 million check. he was just there for the coffee. They're asking the man who can't remember what color socks he has on about films he worked with. Yes. Melania, never heard of her. Ivanka, my princess. Until if Ivanka does something, he'd be like, Ivanka who? Trump? There's an Ivanka Trump? I've never heard of her. Trump was behind this all. He just wanted a piece of the cake. Imagine someone coming to Trump and saying, look, we've raised money to build a wall, but you can spend the money on whatever you want. What would Trump's response be? No. This money must be returned to the kind people who donated it. Yeah, right.
Well, no, there was great lawlessness in the Obama administration. They spied.
Now it's about, what about Obama? This is his go-to. Like, Donald Trump could be found with blood on his hands after murdering someone, and his response would be, how many people has Obama killed? What about Obama? Obama, is he even really from this country? Shouldn't he have been arrested? Shouldn't he have been deported? What about Obama? This is Trump's response every time. Donald Trump, you are corrupt, but what about Obama? Oh my God.
On our campaign illegally. And if you look at all of the things and all of the scandals they had tremendous lawlessness. But I know nothing about, I was not involved in the project. I have no idea who was, but I can tell you I didn't know that.
He's very clear about what he doesn't know.
The three people that were talked about were people that I did not know. I don't believe I ever met them.
Of course not.
I don't think that should be a privately financed wall. I don't think it's too complex. It's too big. And we're now up to 300 miles almost in another week and a half.
300 miles of wall. Twitter says he's a spare unacknowledged daughter for a backup. That's handy, isn't it? It's like, yeah, I don't know any of these things. I never met these people. These are, strangers, complete strangers to me.
We'll be up to 300 miles of wall.
Sorry, 300 miles, yeah. 300 miles. How far? It's something like 5,000 kilometers or 5,000 miles. I don't remember how long the border. Maybe someone can do a quick search on Google. I can't do it now, but someone in the chat can say how long the US border is. Google, how long is the US border? Hopefully my phone doesn't switch on. But I think it's a bit more than 300 miles. When is he planning to finish it? 2050?
At the highest level, they were even having construction problems. I was reading, the little I know about it, I got from you. I was reading where they were having construction problems with...
I got it from you. It's like, I'm going to build a wall allegedly, I'm going to build a wall, and the problems related to the wall come from the media, not the engineers. Like, who the hell did you hire to build this wall? The mafia? That would probably they'd probably actually have a wall built by then if you actually hired the mafia to do it.
The wall that they had a small area just to show people that they could build a wall, and they were having a lot of problems where it was toppling over and other things. And I didn't like it because I didn't want to be associated with that. We built a very powerful wall. It was a wall that is virtually impossible to get through. It's very...
Because there were images of people cutting the holes in this wall that Donald Trump wanted to use with a hacksaw you would find in a local hardware store. It wasn't even anything, specialized. You could go to a hardware store and buy a saw. But once again, this whole wall was just a complete and utter charade, a distraction. Because if you wanted to deal with immigration, and I don't think it's a real problem in the United States to the extent that the Trump supporters believe it is. There are issues, but they're not the type of issues that Donald Trump believes in. But more people arrive in the US by plane and overstay their visa than cross the border from Mexico.
Very tough. It's very strong, and it's everything the Border Patrol wanted. And I didn't want to have a wall that was going to be an inferior wall, and I felt this was going to be an inferior wall.
We're not talking about the friggin' wall. We're talking about Steve Bannon, who was your campaign manager, who's been convicted, or he's been arrested, I think, at the moment. I'm not sure if he's been convicted yet. He's been accused, or I don't remember I don't know the current status of Steve Bannon. I know he's on the stream, so he maybe can give us an update. Are you in a jail cell at the moment? But the topic is Steve Bannon. It's not Obama. It's not about your friggin' wall.
So I didn't know that. I didn't know about Bannon's involvement, but I didn't know the other people. But I do think it's a sad event. And again, Steve has had a great career at Goldman Sachs.
So he's sad about Steve Bannon. He's sad for Steve Bannon. Yes, Steve Bannon has been arrested for fraud, or has been arrested for money laundering as well. That's really sad. Once again, the complete, no, it's not sad that he conned people out of money. It's not regrettable that people who believed that they were going to build a wall were conned by my campaign manager. It's not sad about that. It's sad that he was caught. It's like the type of people are saying, yeah, I'm sorry if you were offended by my punch in the face. I punch you in the face. I'm sorry if you were offended by that. Not I'm sorry for punching you. I'm sorry that you were offended, or if you're offended. This is so ridiculous.
He's had a career with a lot of other people. I haven't dealt with him at all over years now, literally years.
Yeah, years, decades. The 90s. I haven't seen Steve Bannon. The 90s. Is he still that thin thin guy? With perfect skin. That would be Trump's response.
Years. And I guess this was a project he was involved in, but it was something that, in fact, you can see I made statements about it a long time ago. It was something that I very much felt was inappropriate to be doing.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC.
Okay, thank you, Chris Hayes. Okay, oh my God. Okay, let's move on. I just want to just take a little break for a moment. But we'll stick on Donald Trump for a moment, on Steve Bannon actually. So just a little break to keep things light. Is a nice song to keep you entertained. So if you're new to the stream, we normally just about halfway through the stream just take a little break to relax a little bit and enjoy some soothing music.
shit show has begun. Their grift has been as common as the wind, and it seems that Wall needs a boat on the rolling sea. He's always had a secret place to stash away money. He tried to get away on the ocean. He was taking all that money from that phony promotion. So we'd like to know where you got the boat funds. So we'd like to know where you got the boat funds. So we'd like to know where you got the boat funds. So we'd like to know where you got the boat funds. Frog the boat, defraud the boat, baby. Frog the boat, gotta turn the boat over. Frog the boat, frog off this boat, baby. Frog the boat, time to call up your lawyer. Frog the boat, yeah, it's fraudulent, baby. Frog the boat, time to turn yourself over. Frog the boat, get into that jail cell. Frog the boat, it looks like you're over.
Fantastic. Fraud the boat. I love the original song, actually. Okay, let's move on to... sorry, I just want to say a big thank you to Halkalamat. Thank you very much for that super chat. I'm totally... look, I can drink water. I still remember... Person, woman, man, camera, TV. And did I have a campaign manager? Yes. Thank you very much for that. Okay, let's move on to our next topic.
I want to bring you some breaking news.
Okay, so this is, of course, about the quarantine. So more EU countries have been added to the UK's quarantine list. So let's see what Sky News have to say about it.
Disappointing news if you're planning a holiday to Croatia, or indeed if you're in Croatia at the moment. In the last few minutes, the government has decided that Croatia, along with Austria and Trinidad and Tobago, need to be removed from that list of coronavirus travel corridors. Transport Secretary Grant Shapps has tweeted in the last few moments that the data all points to the fact that those countries must be taken from the list to keep infection rates down. If you arrive in the UK after 0400 on Saturday morning from these destinations, you will need to self-isolate for 14 days. We know ministers met in London a little earlier on today to decide on the fate of...
Okay, so this is... doesn't give people a lot of time, so I just want to look at the date, just to confirm the date. The date is from yesterday. So it doesn't give if you're in one of these countries, it means that you need to get the hell out of Dodge before Saturday morning. So if you haven't left yet, then you're probably going to have to quarantine when you return. Dwayne, thank you very much for that super chat. You haven't written a comment, but if you'd like to stick a comment below, I promise to read it. And if I don't see it, resend it. Not the super chat, but just the chat. Comment. Oh well, we'll be cancelling my holiday to Austria. You're going to have to get in quarantine when you're back yesterday. Yes. See, the problem with this quarantine is that what happens is, are people checked when they return? What are the follow-ups? Who's going to check that you're actually staying at home and you're self-isolating? The police? Someone from the government? I don't know. I don't know. Has anyone actually been checked? I assume you fill out a form and you say, I'm going to stay at this address and I'm going to stay at this address for 14 days. I'm not going to leave that area. But are people checked after they sign on the dotted line where they're going to stay? Why are people even going on holiday abroad right now? I don't know, Chris. I would love to visit Ireland. I have family in Ireland, but I can't because I would have to stay there for 14 days in my parents' home. I wouldn't be able to move. Now, I could be sly and travel around and hope that nobody checks, but that would be a dishonest thing to do, and I wouldn't want to do that, and I wouldn't want to put people at risk. So I'm not going. I think people will have to stay in their country, stay at home and have their vacation. At least stay in the country, not travel abroad. I understand people want to travel abroad. They're probably sick of the weather wherever they are, and they want to find out. They want to, experience something different. I know British Common Sense is checking it. Thank you very much for that super chat. Yes, relying on common sense, well, really doesn't cut it. You need people to be checked. It's okay to self-isolate in Wetherspoons. As far as I know, there was a news report of some staff in Wetherspoons who actually got who contracted the virus. CGM, thank you very much for that super chat. Please, if you have a comment, stick it in the chat. I promise to respond. Guys, thank you thanks to all of you for these super chats. Some of you didn't write a comment, but if you want to write a comment, please do. Conned people, Ali Gigi. He is Tim Martin's long-lost brother. In Belgium, quarantine when returned from holiday depends on the alarm level of the country region you've been to. That's interesting. I don't know when it takes off. 2 weeks quarantine required in Hungary. If I go from the UK, can't visit family or friends either. It's quite sad for many people. For me, I'd love to visit Ireland. I haven't been there since January. I'd like to go and visit family, but it's impossible. I can't stay for 2 weeks in one place. So it will probably be after September, or who knows. So let's see what else this report has to say.
Of Croatia and others, this is that tweet I was just telling you about from Grant Shapps. As you can see, Croatia, Austria and Trinidad and Tobago all removed from that list of safe countries, as it were. Quarantine will be required if you return from those countries. You'll have to self-isolate for 14 days. Follow similar decisions, of course, in recent weeks over Spain, France, Malta as well. It's bad news for many holidaymakers. Emma Birchley.
We have to tell people, look, we know you'd like to go on holiday. Everyone would like to go on holiday, but for this year, just give it a miss. Try and work out something by, something at home in the UK. Stay at home in the UK and go on holiday in the UK. Now, I don't know the situation if hotels have reopened in the UK. There doesn't seem to be a lot of news at the moment surrounding the situation, the pandemic in the UK. Most of the news seems to be about immigrants crossing the sea, which is strange. Stay in the house. Yes, stay in the house. Germany is not on the list. I feel behind. I feel left behind. Giro. But Germany is doing well on its. Is not on the air corridor list, or it's not on the restricted list. Which do you mean? Dad went to a care home 2 weeks ago. Tap Dancer says, I'm in Greater Manchester at the moment. Can't even have a window visit. Hate this, as I live in Germany usually, but I'm hanging on for a visit. I really hope that situation changes, Tap Dancer. Dano, thank you very much for that super chat. Donation for a Venetian wall or a hamster resuscitation kit, your choice. A Venetian wall. Thank you very much for that. Stay in the UK, save the national economy. Why isn't this the motto? Exactly. Max, did you see the Irish Minister for Agriculture resigned today because he breached the new social etiquette rules? So yes, what the Irish Minister for Agriculture was drunk driving, wasn't it? And he was at a golf dinner. I don't know which is worse, going to a golf dinner as a politician or being caught drunk driving. Of course, drunk driving is much worse. But at a golf dinner really shows how connected you are with the ordinary folk of the country, aren't you? No offense to anyone who likes golf, of course. Max, Germany always does well, full stop. Basically, you cannot avoid getting it, but you can avoid spreading it to too many people a day. Yes. Maybe we've all had it, but we haven't been tested, and some of us haven't developed symptoms. You mean people in Ireland drive with summer? That's a racist thing to say. It used to be actually, in Ireland, it used to be socially acceptable to drink and drive. Now, I know this is weird, and it sounds really weird also saying it now, but it used to be actually socially acceptable. You know, people would say, well, you shouldn't drive if if you can't see the road, or if you can't put the key into the ignition, then you probably shouldn't drive. I remember when I was a kid actually going to a pub with friends of my family, an older guy, and he drove us back, and he was completely wasted. It was a bit of a white knuckle ride, to say the least. I remember when it was normal to drink drive. It seems so long ago, it seems so remote, and it seems so ridiculous that it was permitted. On 100,000 tests last week, 3,500 were found infected. Not even joking. Not so weird. You could drink drive till what? The 60s? No, in Ireland, I think even to the 90s. Well, it's not that you would be punished if you were over the limit, but the limit was flexible, and it depended on the policeman you met. Oh, look, okay, don't do it again. It was socially exceptional in England too. Cheers. Only a $5, sorry. Yeah, thank you very much. Matthew Smith, thank you very much for the super chat. Hi from rainy Vancouver Island. Sorry that our politics are too far boring to talk about. Matthew, how much we long for the days of boring politics. How great it would be that Boris Johnson and Donald Trump are not in their respective positions. How we'd have to invent stories about politicians. What did people talk about when it was in the boring old days? Zoe, thank you very much for that kind donation, a PayPal donation. Thank you very much for that. Sorry, I didn't see it. I was looking at the video probably before, so I didn't see your donation. Thank you very much, Zoe. Greatly appreciated. Anyone who's giving a donation, if you're not a patron, it might actually be better for you to become a patron, because you actually have access to Discord, and you can have live chats with me and some of the other patrons. So it's something to consider. But all donations are kindly accepted.
Is in the newsroom for us. Emma, what more can you tell us?
Had been warned to keep an eye out for changes, and those changes have now been announced. So added to the list of countries where travellers will have to go through.
The sound is not my fault. Okay, this is Sky News.
14 days of self-isolation on return are Croatia, which there'd been a lot of speculation about, Austria, Trinidad and Tobago. Now, with Croatia, we know that the World Health Organization had said that they'd been watching that closely since the beginning of June as the cases have been increasing, and certainly in the last few days that increase has happened at a greater rate. The key number is 20 cases per 100,000, and we understand with Croatia the figure was around 27, Austria 2, as I mentioned, Trinidad and Tobago. Now, a key thing though is Portugal. Portugal comes off the list. So that means that if you go on holiday there, you won't have to face 14 days of self-isolation on your return. And that will certainly come as very good news to people who want to get over there, but also to Portugal itself, who were very, very unhappy when travel was allowed to many countries, but not Portugal. That was one of the...
Now, are these decisions political or are they scientific? Was the Portuguese government begging the British government to allow tourists to travel from the UK to Portugal? I don't know.
A few places that was on the list, and a place which is hugely popular with British tourists. The thing is if you're trying to book a holiday at the moment, it's an enormous gamble. You may look at the R number, try and find how many cases there are, look at news stories, but you're taking a risk. And this addition of Croatia, Austria, Trinidad and Tobago to the list is proof of that. Just to
what if I travel from Austria to Portugal and then return to the UK? Do I have to self-isolate? So, were you in Austria? No. Okay. Were you in Portugal? Yes. Okay, you don't have to self-isolate. How does that work? Tyler, thank you very much for that super chat. The improved drink driving laws utterly destroy the Culture culture I used to know. So Culture is people from outside Dublin. I don't actually know the true meaning behind the word Culture. I am a Culture, of course. I'm not from Dublin. So anyone who's not from Dublin, Dubliners call them Culchies. So yes, just back on drinking, it was actually it was quite damaging to pub culture in rural Ireland, because many people there was no public transportation to get from their homes to the pub. Some publicans, some pub owners would actually set up little minibus services, but I think that became just too expensive. I told him I love him. That's where it ends. I don't know the context of that. I'd rather have the two Ronnies come to my house than Nigel or Boris. At least I wouldn't have to hide the silver. Oh, very good, Roger. Okay, let's move on. I think my concern here is that a lot of people coming back to the country to the UK will not actually be checked when they actually self-isolate, and I think this is going to be problematic, because how are you going to monitor who is infected, who is not, if there's no follow-up? Dog's Nuts, thank you very much for that kind donation. I work in nursing, dementia, and I can't begin to tell you how much I appreciate your work. I'm totally watching this stream in my pants. Thank you very much for that kind donation. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure for me. I try to make the stream as interesting as possible. Sometimes the topics are not so interesting, but I try to add a little bit of humor where possible. But most of the humor actually comes from the people on the stream. So I have to give a big thanks to the people on the stream, because they usually break me and get me laughing my head off like some sort of crazy Irish person. Not that all Irish people are crazy, just most of us are. Irish Sassenach. So thank you very much for that, Dog's Nuts. Hi Max, CJM says, hi Max, can't think of a question, just wanted to show my appreciation. Thank you very much, CJM. Great to see you on Patreon, see you on Discord. I keep mixing Patreon and Discord. Great to have you on Discord. I hope you're having a great time there. Sorry I don't be on all of the chats, but I do see you active on some of the chats with some of the other people on Patreon and Discord. It would involve too many tests. Kim Jong-un, Boris, and Donald, the unholy trinity of bad haircuts. You would think with all the money and power they have, they'd be able to hire a good tailor, a good hairdresser, I should say, or barber. Insanity is how you survive proximity to England, to Ireland. Thank you very much for that. Insanity, yes, and alcohol. Okay, let's move on to the next topic, which is not a happy topic.
Under the cover of night, using spades as oars and a boat they'd taken from a seaside hut and inflated with their own breath.
Now, just before we continue with this video, I just want to say how I'm very angry about some of the comments that appeared on my channel regarding immigration to the UK. I tried to remove as many as possible, but some of the comments are just disgusting. And when I talked about this teenager losing his life, the responses were, he's not a teenager. Even if that were the case, even if it was true that he was not a teenager, the response from these people, their first response was, he's not a teenager. So it's not that someone has lost their life, it's how old is this person.
Two young men set off from France to reach the UK. A little after 1 a.m. this morning, one of them was found with hypothermia on a French beach. He told authorities that their inflatable had capsized and that his companion, who could not swim, might still be in the water. 7 hours later, he was found dead. We now know he was from Sudan and just 16. The Home Secretary responded on Twitter, saying it was a tragic loss of life, a brutal reminder of the abhorrent criminal gangs and people smugglers who exploit vulnerable people. But those working with...
Can we call these crocodile tears? The Home Secretary, it's an upsetting and tragic loss of life. Yes, it is. Now, you could have done something about this. You could have worked with the French government to facilitate a transfer of these people. These people want to get to the UK. And I've said before, some of the reasons why they want to get to the UK could be because they believe they have a better opportunity of life in the UK, because in some cases they come from countries where they were part of the British Empire. English is one of the languages that they're able to speak better. And some of them have relatives or communities in the UK that they want to get to. There's also the problem that if you claim asylum, for example, in France or Italy or Germany, it's not easy for you to move. So imagine someone has friends or relatives, family in the UK, and they're living in Sudan. They want to get to the UK. They want to get to their family. They don't have the documentation to arrive in the UK. If they arrive in the UK, they could be deported if they don't have the right documentation. So they cross the sea and claim asylum. Where did they go? They go to the UK. Because if they go to France or Germany, they won't be able to move freely around even if they're in Germany or France, they're not free to move to another EU country if they have an asylum claim in one country. So there is this message, why don't they claim asylum in Italy? They arrive in Italy, why don't they claim asylum there? It's because they want to get to the UK because they have no connections to Italy. They have family, relatives in the UK. They want to get there. They want to be with their family. Now, we should be trying to facilitate that. People try to keep families together. This was a young guy, a teenager. Now, some people on the channel were saying he's not. He's in his 20s or he's 28 or 29. Okay, I don't believe that's true. But even if it were true, he's trying to get to his family. He's not saying, I want to get to the UK to steal Brexiteers' jobs. I want to get to the UK to sell drugs or something. The problem is that you have people like Nigel Farage, who has poured poison into the ears of people, convinced them that people like this want to come to the country to steal from you, So when people come to the country, what is your first response? Oh, they're coming here to steal from me, because the likes of Nigel Farage, the Daily Mail, the Tory party have been continually bombarding us with this idea that they're coming here to take from us. So your natural response is to rebel, to react in a negative way towards those people. Nodialsi, thank you very much for that super chat. We now have borders against Africa that are worse than the Berlin Wall. Kills thousands every year. If people are coming to the country, they're coming for. I believe they want to be with their relatives, with their family, with their community. Their situation is desperate. They don't want to stay in their country. It's a desperate situation. Nick Ferrari was howling on LBC. Artemis, it's great to see you on the stream. Was howling on LBC that we must stop calling them asylum seekers, as most are economic immigrants. He's such a liar. He can't know that. How can you know that they're illegal immigrants or economic immigrants? When people arrive, if they claim asylum, their asylum case is listened to, and if it matches, or say if it respects the criteria necessary, then they can stay. If it doesn't, they're deported. Now, if someone comes into the country to look for a job, says, I'm here to look for a job, that's an economic migrant. But there is this thing that, they're illegal. But you can't be illegal until you have been processed and said, okay, the people who are illegal immigrants or illegal asylum, or not even an illegal asylum seeker, because you can't be an illegal asylum seeker. Someone is quote unquote illegal when they have stayed beyond the permission to stay. They're given a time, okay, you have 3 months to stay here, you have 6 months to stay here, or you have 3 weeks to stay here. If you stay beyond that, then you're quote unquote illegal. It's not people coming to the country are illegal. If somebody arrives in the country and says, I'm here to claim asylum, they have to be processed. There's nothing illegal about that. It's not illegal to arrive in the country. This is the thing that the right wing try to convince people of. These people are illegal by coming to the country. Illegal is a loaded word for undocumented. Yes, I shouldn't. Sorry, apologies. I hit the light here. I shouldn't use the word illegal. It's undocumented is the correct term. Illegal doesn't actually exist in the legal sense. It's undocumented is the correct term. Brexiteers are illiterate. We have people from Africa, and those guys work for every hour. Today I went to the local farmers market, and there was an African guy working hard in the fields. He was carrying in boxes of fruit and vegetables continuously. He's doing a job that Italians don't want to do. And this is no offense to Italians. The same in every rich country. There are certain jobs that the locals don't want to do because it's hard work and it's normally badly paid. But for Priti Patel to say she's, this is tragic. Why the hell don't you work out an agreement with the EU, with France, to get these people across the sea? If these people want to come across the sea, they're going to come across the sea. What's important is that they arrive and they're dealt with. They're processed. If they are here in the UK to cause trouble, or if they're here for no good reason, then they can be deported. I'm not against deporting people, but they have to be given their due rights under the law.
Smugglers who exploit vulnerable people, but those work.
And once again, this idea of we're not focusing on the people, we're focusing on the smugglers. The smugglers bring people into the country because the people want to get into the country. The best way to deal with the smugglers is to have an agreement between France and the UK. Eliminate the smugglers. Say, look, if people want to come in, we'll allow them to come in. Then there'll be no smugglers. The reason the smugglers are working is because people are desperate to come in. If people are not desperate, if people don't have to take desperate measures to come into the country, then there will be no smugglers. 3.5 million asylum seekers in the world right now, and the right-wingers are getting all snowflakey about a few boats. They're getting snowflakey about these boats. Isn't it interesting? Because Nigel Farage raised it. And it's a convenient distraction from COVID, from Brexit, from all of the problems at the moment. Let's focus on this issue of people coming across the sea. To do what are they coming across the sea? The biggest problem seems to be from Nigel Farage that they're staying in hotels. Like, he's not saying they're coming and they're going to take our jobs. There are no jobs because Brexit is going to get rid of all these jobs, and COVID is getting rid of jobs as well. So we can't say they're coming to take our jobs. Are they coming to take our women? No, that would be a bit too much on the nose. They're coming to stay in our hotels. It's not exactly rivers of blood, is it?
Working with people in the camps in Calais dispute the claim that this is the direct work of smugglers.
Most of the young boys from Sudan, they don't have any money. And one of the most horrible things that we've seen over the last few months is that as more people have made it across, the ones who don't have money, they have to watch this. They have to sit there and watch the people who've got money and can pay smugglers get across to the UK. And what that does is make them take greater and greater risks. So that's why we've seen people come across in little wooden rowing boats with no engines, in inflatable kayaks, the people who've taken desperate risks trying to swim, or we even heard of somebody coming in a paddling pool.
In recent weeks, the UK government has intensified its resolve to stop people making the crossing after a record number have come this year. They've drawn up plans to bring in the Navy and blamed France for not doing more to stop people from
Okay, bringing in the Navy. So that's a great use of taxpayers' money. Let's bring in the Navy to do what? To keep these little boats, these dinghies, these paddling pools from crossing the channel. Like, what can the Navy do? Scott's Dog, thank you very much for that kind donation. That super chat. I must match Dog Nuts' contribution. Nuts are the most important part of a dog's anatomy. I need a good study pair of underpants to support them. So I too am sitting in my underpants and trousers. I was thinking... Tweelord, thank you very much for that kind super chat. England nationalist logic. Foreigner Britishness is inverse of what they said foreigners wish. Sinn Féin are Brits and DUP are Irish. Only group to want they fled eagerly. Yeah, this idea of them. Yeah, the DUP. For British people are Irish and Sinn Féin are British is an interesting take on that, exactly. But it's I will never understand British nationalists. No mankini tonight, Max, no. But bringing in the Navy to deal with this problem,
leaving their shores.
And we are doing on the French side everything we can.
Okay, and this idea, yeah, we want the French to do more. Well, imagine if there was some sort of cooperation, a union of different countries you could work together and you could put pressure on France to do something about this, through this union, this European Union. No, we decided we want to leave that. We don't want to cooperate with Europe or its union, which could actually benefit us in dealing with this issue. France is within its rights when the UK leaves to encourage people, go across the sea, you know, go. We'll even fill up your tank with petrol if you want. And there's nothing the UK could do about it. As soon as they arrive in British waters, under international law, the UK would be forced to take these people in. Instead of actually sitting down with France and trying to work something out, they're blaming France. France isn't doing enough. So what are you going to do? Artemis says, yes, makes a very valid point that stop selling arms to different warring factions in these countries would be a good start. But Artemis, if you stopped selling weapons to these countries and the factions within these countries, then how are Tory party supporters, donors, going to make money? And then how is the Conservative Party going to receive donations if these, you know, weapons suppliers are not making money? You need to rethink this this approach. I hope you understood the sarcasm in my comment. I know you did, but I hope everyone else did. Most, please leave. No. EU, please stay. No. Please leave. Sorry, please leave. No. EU, please stay. No. Very good comment. Save your mankini for watching the GR Italia Max. Oh. Yes. I'm not going to release a mankini. I know many people want to see this mankini, but I'm sorry. It would be a crime against humanity. Okay, and I would be dragged in front of the Hague, and you would see me. You would not see my face, but you would see the little sketches of me sitting in the Hague. I don't know if they may actually bring back execution, like what happened to the Nazis in the 1945 and 1946. Not in the Hague, but it was in Nuremberg. But after in the Hague, they would make a special place for me. Do you plead guilty or not guilty to publishing mankini calendars? I plead guilty. Off with his head.
Can to stop these people to cross the channel. We've built wires, walls. We are operating cameras, drones every night. We've got police officers patrolling the French seaside, the French shore every hours of every day.
And you can't monitor the entire coast. And even if you were to monitor the entire coast, the French taxpayer would be saying, why are we paying for this? Because the British asked. Sang le bleu? Why are we paying for this? I know sang le bleu isn't used anymore by the French.
But, you know, it only takes 5 minutes for migrants like this to go at sea.
What is the solution then?
British authorities need to give the possibility to migrants to claim for asylum in the UK while they are in France, in Greece, in Italy, in Europe, in continental.
And if they were allowed to do that, then they would not need to travel across the sea in these boats. I never forget things. Max, even English nationalists do not understand or comprehend English nationalists when they say for hours waiting for a German woman to drive by. I don't think guns are needed. We Scots dog. Simply by everyone wearing mankinis, that would be a killing sight. Mankini calendar with hamsters, people demanded. And that's an interesting take, Christian. Mankini calendar with hamsters.
Entire Europe.
But so let's go back to this. So yes, what about allowing people to claim asylum in Italy for the UK? Maybe there would be a UK office that people could go to and claim asylum there, and then they would be given the necessary papers to travel to the UK. But then that wouldn't help the Conservative Party. How would that help the Conservative Party? Model di merda. Mordel di merde. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Mordel di merde. Okay. Mordel di merde. Thank you very much, Archangel. Where will the hamsters be kept? The mankini. That's an interesting point. How will they wear the mankini? But on this issue, what needs to be done, we all know the UK needs to cooperate with member states that are exposed to this problem, to this issue, who are dealing with this issue. If people want to get to the UK, they will try to get to the UK. Why not make it more humanitarian? Why not make it more humane? Allow the people to arrive in the UK by more humanitarian means. Why are we forcing people in the 21st century to use paddling pools to get to the UK? Why? Because I believe the Tory party would prefer this. They can use it. They can say, look, this is evil France. These people should be claiming asylum in France. They should be claiming asylum in Italy. But if they want to get to the UK, if their objective is to get to the UK, then what's the point in forcing them to claim asylum in countries that they don't want to live in? They have no relatives there. They have no network there to protect them, to help them eventually contribute to society. How we organized the Syrian asylum seekers was called gold standard by UN, going into camps and arranging applications there, then setting up communication at home. And gone are those days. What changed? Asylum seekers can't request a refuge in the UK when entering the EU. Because there's no UK office. There's no UK mechanism to allow them to do that. Like, if somebody wants to go to the UK, what's the response? You say, no, you can't. Or yes, you can. If you say no, you can't, why not? If the response from the Tories or Tory supporters or right-wing nationalists in the UK is, we don't want these people coming here. Okay, but if these people are going to come here anyway, doesn't it make sense to allow them the means to do it legally so that nobody dies, that money is not handed over to people smugglers? I look at it in the same way as the legalization of prostitution. People are going to use prostitution whether we like it or not. You can preach about it as much as you want, but people are going to use it. Maybe less now with COVID, but generally, people will use it. So it makes sense to have it legalized, to have it formalized, have the correct paperwork, have it done right. Then we end up with fewer, I hope, fewer people smugglers, fewer cases of people being abused, people being exploited. It doesn't eliminate this problem, but it does reduce it. And I think we should be doing the same thing with immigration, with asylum. Guys, we're at the end of the stream for tonight. We're almost at the end. I just wanted to change topic completely because this is something quite interesting. And then just a little bit of a change. But on the issue of immigration, I don't see it changing because the Conservative Party are not interested in changing. They're not interested in compromising. They're not interested in appearing humanitarian. So this is from...
Can drive for itself.
Okay, so this is an interesting video from Sky News. It's about driverless cars. So let's see some of the video and then I'll come back with some comments.
Some of the time. It's got an autopilot system which can take over as long as he keeps his eye on the road and his hands on the wheel.
I think I'm quite aware of being there as the driver. It's my responsibility if something happens. I've got my family in the car, right? Like the buck stops with me. But I think the slight delegation, having something else do the moment-to-moment stuff, does free you up a bit to feel a bit more like a passenger.
We could be seeing more of this kind of technology according to new proposals from the government, which is investigating whether to make it legal to use more advanced automated systems on motorways, hands-free.
Hey, so I got a bit confused there. Doesn't like roundabouts. Beeped and prompted me to take over because there were 2 lanes and a roundabout and it didn't know what to do.
It'll be in the slow lane only, and they'll be checked to see if drivers are paying attention. But still, is this a step towards driverless cars? People have been saying that driverless cars are right around the corner for about 10 years, but they never arrive. And the reason is that to go from a car like this to one like this, which helps you automatically, is technologically speaking a relatively small step. To go to a driverless car is a huge step, and that's why they don't and might never exist. Most self-driving vehicles aren't out on roads like these test cars, but are instead in confined areas like industrial sites or residential estates. The company behind their software says this latest development is still an important moment.
It's limited in its functionality, but if you take a helicopter view, it's still a vehicle deciding on its steering and its speed without you steering or controlling the speed. And it has to perceive its environment, it's got to know where it is, it's got to know where other vehicles are. These are the building blocks of autonomy, right? Have no doubt. So where am I, what's around me, what should I do? Those are the 3 pillars of autonomy, and they are present in this system.
So I'm not so much interested in how the technology will develop, but what I'm very interested in is the social aspect of this. Imagine now, how many taxi drivers do we have in the world? Well, these jobs will be eliminated because we will be able to have cars that will drive themselves. Now, they're saying that it's still a good bit away. I think it's moving faster than we actually think to a level where we have completely autonomous vehicles. Now, this is going to eliminate a lot of jobs. Taxi drivers, couriers, for example, lorry drivers will lose their jobs as well because of this type of technology. And they're not going to be able to, Uber drivers, you mean? And they're not going to be able to find new jobs because other jobs are also being eliminated by new technologies. I think what we're going to see in the future as well is the idea of car ownership will also disappear. Because imagine, instead of actually owning a car, you could say, I use a car. For example, most people would say their car sits outside their home for 90% of the time. When do you use your car? You maybe go to work. Now with COVID, it's probably even less. You go to work. You use the car to get to work, which is maybe an hour or half an hour or 20 minutes or 45 minutes or whatever it takes for you to get to your workplace. And then the same time back, which is a very small amount of time in all of the day. So but you're still paying for the actual car, which is actually depreciating in value. So it would make sense for many people to instead pay for a car for the use of the car. A bit like the type of, how can we say, car rental. There's a type of smart rental that you pay for the use of the car when you're in the car. For the kilometers or the time you use the car. So I think something like that. But imagine instead an automated one where you call the car with an app, it arrives, you get in, and it takes you wherever you want to go. And then you let it, and then you get out of the car and it goes off to serve another customer. Hopefully it's sanitized inside because of COVID. So I think that's an interesting future. Of course, it's not going to be something very good for people who need to drive as for a business. You know, if you're a taxi driver, if you're an owner of a taxi fleet, if you're an owner of a courier fleet, if you're courier companies, they want to take this on board, but their drivers are going to be laid off. So this is going to change a lot of ways of working. And also from another social aspect, imagine if the only cars on the road or on the streets are ones that are serving people. So that we would eliminate car parks. because you would never need a car park because the car would take you to where you want to go and then it would go away. We would never need to have car parks. So we could redevelop car parks into maybe green areas, which I think would be something very positive. So there'll be positives and negatives. I think we should always try to focus on the positives as well. Okay, guys, this is the end of the stream. So I'm just going to show you one for the road, just of course to lighten the mood. I don't want it to be too sad, whether people are losing their jobs or political issues are, keeping us down. So this should be a funny video. Enjoy.
Well, we don't quite know how, but he's president now, he's a moron. He'll look straight at the sun till the eclipse is done, he's a moron. Staff will sing, he's a ding-a-ling, ding-a-ling-a-ling, he's a ding-a-ling, so much drama. And when something goes wrong, he just tweets up a stone, blame Obama. When the country's in flames, he just plays racist games, he's a moron. He'll be spewing his lies while he's serving up fries, what a moron. He says, no, 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 there was no quid pro quo, he's a moron. GOP, can't you see, in Washington, D.C., he's a moron.
I think we'll end it there. So thanks to everyone for coming on the stream tonight. It was a great pleasure. Thanks to everyone for sending their super chats. That was really nice and greatly appreciated. I hope I was able to answer all of your comments. If you'd like to become a Patreon, you'll have instant access to Discord, and after this stream we're going to all meet, or some of us are going to meet on Discord to have a chat about what we talked about tonight. And make sure to check out the merch store if you'd like to see some of the interesting merchandise from Robespierre. So once again, thanks to all of you for coming on the stream. Thanks again also to the moderators. I couldn't do it without you. You kept the stream on the straight and narrow. So thanks once again, guys. Have a great weekend, and I will see you all next Tuesday, same bat time, same bat channel, 9:30 British summertime. Have a great weekend, great night, and I'll see you soon. Remember, as Boris Johnson always says, stay safe, stay alert, wash those hands. Good night, guys. Take it easy.